Welcome to The Explainer. You know, every teacher, every course designer faces this one huge challenge, picking the right stuff to teach with. So today, we're going to build a framework, a kind of blueprint to help you make really smart, effective choices.
I mean, have you ever felt this way? You're just staring at this wall of textbooks, or you've got a million tabs open with online resources. It can be totally overwhelming, right? But what if you had a system, a real blueprint that takes you from that sea of choices straight to the perfect tool for the job? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to turn you from just a selector into a true architect of learning.
All right, so here's our game plan. It's a 5-step journey, really. We'll start by laying the foundation, then we'll draft a learning blueprint. After that, we'll get into some critical design principles, pick out the right tools, and then wrap it all up with a final check.
Okay, first things first. Every great structure needs a rock-solid foundation, right? Well, in education, that foundation is all about understanding how people actually learn. It's our version of the laws of physics. So, what are learning theories? You can think of them as the science behind why education works. And they're not just some dusty, abstract ideas, They're the real, fundamental models that explain how our brains actually grab onto, process, and hang on to new information. This is the bedrock. Everything else is built on top of this.
And here's the thing that's super interesting. There's no single best theory. It's not a one-size-fits-all deal. A really skilled designer, a true architect, knows how to pull from different toolkits. You might use a little bit of behaviorism, which is all about observable actions. Or maybe you'll lean on constructivism, which sees learning as this active, hands-on process of building knowledge. It's all about matching the theory to the goal, the resources, and, of course, the students themselves.
Okay, foundation is laid. Now it's time to draft the blueprint. This is the part where we take all those big, important ideas about learning and turn them into a concrete, step-by-step plan for an actual lesson. And this slide, wow, it just lays it out so perfectly. You see how it flows? You start broad with the big picture learning theory. That helps you pick your instructional theory, the actual teaching strategies you're going to use, like group work versus a lecture. And from there, you get super specific with the instructional design plan. That's the nitty-gritty of how it's all going to come together in the classroom.
Now, here's a really crucial point. A good blueprint isn't just a to-do list, not at all. It has to have these key design principles baked right in. These are the things that make sure the final product, whether it's a textbook, a video, whatever, is actually effective and, easy for a student to get their head around.
Speaking of principles, researchers Chambliss and Calfee really nailed it. They identified 3 critical design elements that make instructional text work. Let's break them down. First up, distinctive elements. The best way to think about these are like signposts. Seriously. Just like signs in a building point you to the exit or the right room, things like headings, bolded words, or even questions at the end of a chapter, they all guide the learner through the material. They make the whole structure of the information totally obvious.
Next up, we've got coherence. This is all about making sure all the pieces of the puzzle fit together logically. When a text is coherent, one idea just flows naturally into the next. And by using familiar words and maybe repeating some key ideas, you help the learner build a kind of mental map of the information. It just makes it so much easier to remember.
And this last one, learner match. Honestly, this might be the most important one of them all. It's simple. The material has to connect with what the learner already knows. Think about it. If it's too easy, they're bored. If it's way over their head or it doesn't connect to their experience, they're just lost. You're looking for that sweet spot, that perfect match where new information can click right into place with what's already there.
All right, so we've got our foundation and our blueprint with its core principles. Now for the fun part. Let's head into the workshop and start picking out the actual tools and materials for our lesson. And wow, the first thing you realize is just how many tools are in the toolbox. Look at this. This chart breaks them all down into different categories. We're talking everything from simple audio and good old-fashioned print, all the way up to really complex computer simulations, and even human-to-human stuff like role-playing.
Now, picking the right tool isn't just about grabbing what looks cool. It's a real process, and this flowchart here gives us that bird's eye view. I know it might look a little complicated at first, but it's really just a logical path. You start on the left by figuring out your content, you walk through a few key decisions, and that helps you land on the right kind of media. There's even a little review loop at the end to make sure you got it right.
So let's zoom in on that first step. The process kicks off by asking a really simple question. What kind of learning are we even talking about here? Are we teaching something cognitive, facts and ideas? Or is it psychomotor, which is all about physical skills, like learning to tie a shoe or play the piano? Or maybe it's affective, something focused on feelings, attitudes, or values. Where you start here totally changes the path you take.
And then the decision tree gets even more granular. It's brilliant, really. By answering these simple yes or no questions, the model just narrows down your options for you. Like, let's say you're teaching how a car engine works. The model asks, do you need to show motion? Well, yeah, of course you do. And bam, just like that, a static picture is off the table and you're pointed straight towards a video or maybe an interactive animation.
Okay, the design is done, the tools are selected, we're almost ready to go. But before we hit go, we have to do one last thing, a final quality control check. You need a solid checklist to make absolutely sure your materials are ready for prime time.
And this is it, your final inspection checklist. You run through it point by point. Is it appropriate for the audience? That's our learner match. Is it coherent? Does it flow logically? Is the vocabulary on point? Does the layout look good and actually help with learning? And this last one is so important. Do the questions make students think, or do they just ask them to spit back facts? We want deep understanding, not just memorization.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. In an age of AI where content can be generated in a split second, you might think this kind of careful process is obsolete, but it's the exact opposite. The deliberate, thoughtful, human-centered work of an instructional architect, everything we just walked through, is more valuable than ever. It's the difference between just throwing information at someone and creating a genuine, effective learning experience.
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Everything we talked about today really stands on the shoulders of giants, researchers like these, and so many others who've dedicated their careers to the science of great teaching.